All right, so some of you may be thinking about trading Broadcom or AVGO into their earnings. Whether you're a bull, whether you're a bear, doesn't really matter. What I want to give you is at least the technical levels for you to be mindful of if you do decide to take a trade. Now, what's really interesting about AVGO heading into earnings, I mean, you want to look at this chart real quick. It just, actually, today, right now as I'm talking, it just made a new all-time high as of today. So, we are breaking all-time highs into its earnings, which I believe are on Thursday. Yes, so they're on Thursday. So you have this video, this discussion at least 2 days before earnings, so you can at least sit with it and think. Big move. You're breaking over these key levels here and pushing to the upside here. Brand new all-time highs heading into earnings. With everything going on in the world, Broadcom doesn't seem to really be affected. Now, you're going to want to obviously pay attention to, and in general, what I also want to highlight is your SMH, which is your semiconductor ETF. So if you are a bull or if you are a bear, and if you're just investing in the market in general, what you want to be mindful of is the fact that how strong AVGO, so let's look at, this is the monthly chart, it's crazy. And let's look at the monthly chart for, actually, let's go weekly. Probably give it better. Okay. Look at your weekly chart for your SMH and your weekly chart for AVGO. And you'll notice, and we can get out the roll tape here and measure, but you'll notice AVGO had more of a percentage gain over the SMH, which you may think, well, why does that matter, right? And this is for general market information. And in fact, you could say like SMH really kind of has been bearish ultimately since around 2024. I mean, yeah, you had sideways chop, you had the tariff drama and whatnot, while AVGO did also kiss some of that bearishness, but today, recently, it's making new all-time highs. And the rest of the semiconductor industry really isn't pushing as hard as AVGO. So why should you care about that? Well, you should care about that because if AVGO, for whatever reason, has their earnings and it's deemed bearish, and again, we talk about this all the time where things are deemed something. So it's not necessarily bullish or bearish. Their information could be fantastic, but if it's just not good enough for what the market expects, or they guide down because they see future issues in their pipeline or whatever may happen, that could obviously affect the stock price. Now, what you want to look at here is the fact that if the SMH has been lacking, and if AVGO has basically been the strength for the SMH, at least in my opinion, when you look at other companies like NVDA, which have still been pretty strong, they haven't been as strong theoretically as AVGO. If AVGO does have a bearish earnings, the effect that this could have on the market could be pretty bad. And the reason being is that whatever may happen on their earnings, if it is bearish, it could show potential weakness in the semiconductor, I want to say sector as a whole, which could cause a cascading effect to these other companies. Again, if we're just looking at the SMH as a whole, that could be a cascading effect to show potential weakness on other semiconductor companies and semiconductor adjacent companies as well. Your AI stocks, your material companies that provide materials for these AI companies. So you want to be very mindful of that, because if this is the stalwart, the strength in the SMH, and if it shows any weakness, that could be a poor sign for growth. We look at, again, semiconductors as the canary in the coal mine, could be a poor sign for growth in the overall market. Now, that sounds very bearish, but again, I don't necessarily want things to be observed from a bearish or bullish standpoint, but it's more from a risk on, risk off standpoint. So now, let's say you heard what I just said. You go, Adam, I don't care. What do I need to look for if I'm trading, if I want to trade AVGO into earnings? Well, I would kindly suggest you consider being more defensive, actually, if you decide to trade AVGO. Maybe you're already long AVGO, maybe you already have call options, whatever. I would actually ask you consider to be a little bit more defensive, because I would argue going into an ER at all-time highs is not going to be too conducive with where we are in the market and where the world economy is sitting right now for continued growth, at least in my opinion. And I believe the spotlight is on AVGO to hit these strong growth markers that they may not hit. Now, we looked at NVIDIA and we talked about NVIDIA's earnings. That video's up on my channel as well. And I set some pretty high expectations for their earnings. And I made it very clear. I thought they were going to smash their earnings. They were going to beat their earnings. They're going to do fine. But the important thing is, how good would they do? How strong would growth be? How impressed would the market be with those results? It doesn't matter that they had great results. It's, again, what are you doing for me tomorrow? Well, it doesn't matter what you did for me today or yesterday. What are you going to do for me in the future, right? And that's what I want, and that's what I think is going to happen with AVGO as well. So, not necessarily that I'm looking to be a bear, but again, your risk areas that you want to watch out for. Again, these two areas, it's now the old all-time high, because now it's the new all-time high, or Yeah, it's today's the new all-time high. This is your old all-time high, 250.45 and 246.53. You're going to want to watch those areas to hold through earnings. So if you're someone who's trading after hours or anything, you're going to want to watch those two areas to hold into earnings. Next area that could receive a tap on earnings, and we're going to look at expected move here momentarily, is this 229.85. That's a pretty stark fall here. That's, $20, $30. Depending on where we get there by Thursday. You could rally another 10 points here before Thursday. So it is a decent move to the downside. Now, I will say leading up into their earnings or leading up into today, we're seeing some strength come in through semiconductors, which is a good sign, especially leading into earnings for AVGO. However, again, if they miss the mark in any way, or at least the market deems that they missed the mark, this could be pretty bad. The other thing you want to look out for, so let's say we tap this 229.85 area. That would be an area to actually consider establishing a long if you don't already have a long and you like the company and earnings were good. So let's say earnings were fantastic, but maybe they said one or two things that were just kind of like meh, and the market didn't like it as much. That would actually be a point where I consider a new long on AVGO. You have decent support there. It's obviously an area of consolidation. It's old resistance, new support. Backtesting that off of earnings actually wouldn't be a bearish thing. It would actually be pretty good. I wouldn't be mad about that. Also allows this crazy rally from 138.10 at the lows to cool off a little bit more. You could argue it cooled as it went, but it would allow this to cool a little bit more. For context, your daily RSI is at 80. It's pretty steep. You do have this gap down here at 215.88 and 209.96. So if you do consider establishing a long at that 229.85 area, maybe put on a tight stop, because there is that possibility that bears could target that gap. And that's another area, once the gap is filled, where I would actually consider a long. So let me make it abundantly clear. It's not that I want to be a bear on AVGO. I just think unless they absolutely smash their earnings, that there is going to be more of a bear effect into earnings, unless something fantastical happens. This is a very hot chart. And if something's white hot, you need to keep heating it up. In certain points, things just can't get hotter, and that is concerning me with AVGO. So all in all, actually, I should highlight this last level down here, 192.19, key area of support. You have POC right below it, and the 200 MA on the dailies there, the 50 MA on the dailies right nearby as well. So for whatever reason, if you get all the way down there, that would also be a spot. So there's different areas where I would actually want to open a new long. But if I'm already exposed long on this name, I might want to de-risk, sell covered calls, whatever you may want to do to get lowered exposure on AVGO. The last thing I'll leave you with, quick calculation, and you should probably do this before their earnings, but you want to look at the money. You want to kind of understand what the expected move is. So for today, right now, we're trading 253, we'll call it 50. Take take both sides of the chain, add them together. That's going to give you a rough, quick and dirty way for you to understand what the expected move is. So you got $9 here, $8 here, we'll call it $19. So your expected move is about $19 either which way, which would line up with that 229.85 tap, again, roughly. So there is that possibility here, especially if it doesn't get follow through today through jolts, that could happen. So that's your little summary for AVGO going into their ER. Hopefully that helped. And yeah, if you haven't, like and subscribe. Thanks.